Walter Wenger is a gentleman and who is very upset over the treatment of his son in a medical facility in a home in Rome. We're going to be talking to him along with Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi, who's calling for an investigation. And as ugly as this sounds, it involves maggots. The story, Andrew, is broke. This is the second time, too.
Yes, on August 10th, the Associated Press published the story of Steven Wenger, 41, who was twice found to have maggots crawling around in his breathing tube in a state-owned, operated small group home in Rome last summer. So this is a state-run facility. It happened twice, and a state investigation found the infestation was due to the result of neglect that the caregivers failed to properly clean the site of his breathing tube, but no caregivers were disciplined. So even though the infestation and the inspection found it to be neglect, nobody was disciplined and nobody was held accountable for it.
I want to start with Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi. Obviously, this is a horrible story, Anthony.
This is the worst of the worst. It really is. This kind of thing should never happen. When you entrust your loved one to the care of the state, you expect the state is going to provide the best possible care. And for many people, they don't have an advocate. They're watching out for their best interests. So the state is incapable of policing itself. We saw that with the very tepid response that the Justice Center gave in response to this incident. And it's time that the feds come in and look at this and the other 4,000 incidents that have happened across the state in the last year.
Can I ask, when we say August 10th, this happened last year or this happened last week?
The story came out last week.
Right.
The AP published the report last week. I had spoke to Walter actually earlier this year and made an inquiry with the Justice Center about his case and was told that the case was closed and that Walter was satisfied with the response, which I later learned was not true. So I'm upset that I was not given all the facts. When I call a state agency, I expect to get all the facts. If I can't get them and family members can't get them, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
You have the comptroller of the state himself who tried to do an inquiry on the Justice Center last year, was stonewalled. So when we have, folks at the highest level of government here in New York State trying to get information and can't do so, that's a real problem. And we need someone above us in the federal level to investigate these matters.
Walter Wenger is the father of the young man, considered as the victim here, and he's on the line now. Walter, good morning. Thanks for coming on the radio.
Good morning.
So obviously, this is horrible for you and your family to deal with.
Yes, it's been going on, and what we have here is a state agency, which is the Justice Center, which simply doesn't do its job. And what it does is it covers up for the inadequacies of the OPWDD, and they're sort of working hand in glove to cover up. That's why, for example, when they literally murdered Jonathan Carey, Michael Carey had to go to the Assembly and the legislature to get records available for the murder of his own son.
Yeah.
And that ended up in Jonathan's Law being passed. And without Jonathan's Law, I would never have been able to get these records to prove what the negligence that they have been committing for years on my son.
Can you talk about your son? Because we talk about these stories often and without putting a person behind it. These stories all have people behind them. And talk about your son.
Okay, my son went to school. He was fine, 15-year-old, ended up with traumatic brain injury from the local public school. So he ends up in St. Luke's Hospital for 15 years, and finally I find out about the OPWDD, which provides, they claim, person-centered programming, which means that the individual gets to pick the services they want so they can live the kind of life they want to lead.
Yeah.
So as his legal guardian and his father, I said, great, send him there so he can finally get some therapy and rehabilitation and so on.
Yeah.
And he gets there, and they do nothing. He sleeps 24 hours a day, no therapy. They don't take him out anywhere. They take him out, and they claim he gets maggots because I wanted him to go outdoors.
Wow, they blamed you? They blamed you after you complained?
Yes, they did. They blamed me. Because he got the maggots. They claimed that the farmer across the street spread manure, and I demanded that they take him out, so they took him out, and obviously a fly from across the street came and laid eggs on his tracheostomy, so it's my fault.
Oh, wow.
How is there ever an excuse for that to happen?
Anthony,
it's
Anthony
incomprehensible.
Brindisi, it's got to infuriate you. I mean, this is, and how does the state not come down hard on an agency like this?
Well, that's the thing. This is not supposed to happen. If you talk to medical experts, the care of these tracheostomies is supposed to be very frequent. So you're obviously going to detect some kind of maggot or other foreign substance that's not supposed to be in there if there's proper care occurring. To try and blame the father or the farmer or some other reason for this happening is terrible. It's an excuse for lack of oversight. And the response by the Justice Center obviously was not strong enough. It really warranted a much firmer response. There was recommendations of training which were not even mandatory that the staff at the group home had to take in response to this case. A lot more should have been done. This never should have come to this point. And if we can't police ourselves here in New York State, that's why we need HHS to look into this matter. They have the capability to look into these kinds of cases, and I think this is one of the most egregious I've seen.
All right, we appreciate it. Do you expect any? Have you had any communication with the feds on this as of yet that lead you to believe they're looking into it?
We haven't yet, but we are going to stay on it and we'll make sure we get some kind of response from them. And I think it warrants a response because of what happened here.
Walter, have you, from anybody else, parents or family members of people in the facility, have you heard of any other stories similar to this, or is it just exclusive to Steven?
Yeah, did you hear that, Walter?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I've heard of many other stories like this. Michael Carey is the classic example. They literally murdered his son. And, I've talked with other people who say the same thing. In fact, I every time I go there are 7 other people there, and they're being ignored also. It appears that what they're running is a hospice. They take disabled people in and do nothing and wait for them to die.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. By the way, that farmer across the street hasn't spread manure for over 18 years.
Wow.
So that was just a flat out right lie, and that's their pattern.
And it took you to have to go and do your own work and do your own investigative work to get to the bottom of that. I mean, that just certainly shouldn't have to happen in Manassas.
Anthony, if I can ask, I think someone was referring to the Office of Persons with Developmental Disabilities, and then there was also a mention of the Justice Center, that they wouldn't give you information. How are the two tied in? Is the Justice Center a state agency? Can you clear that up?
It is a state agency. So OPWDD is the state agency that's in charge of all of these group homes and any other service that's related to the developmentally disabled in the state. The Justice Center was created a few years ago under the governor to be the state agency that would investigate complaints of abuse against folks who are developmentally or intellectually disabled, who are under the care of a nursing home or a long-term care facility or under OPWDD's charge. There have been so many issues with the Justice Center since its inception, and you saw this earlier this year. The state comptroller, Tom Anthony, tried to do an audit. We've tried to do bills. We've passed bills that have been vetoed by the governor to correct some of the situations with the Justice Center. But every step of the way, it's been stonewalled, and there's a problem here. We need to address the problem. We need to make sure that people feel comfortable that when they are entrusting the care of their child or loved one to the state, that the state's going to be there doing the right thing. And for thousands of others who are in Walter's position or her son's position, they don't have a father or a mother or a loved one who's there watching after them every day.
Right.
So what is happening to those people who don't have a voice, who can stand up for them and do the kind of work that Walter did on behalf of his son?
Well, I got to tell you, isn't it just like New York government to have an agency to prevent this from happening that becomes, to prevent the corruption and the neglect, that becomes neglectful and corrupt, it seems. I mean, that's just so like, it's crazy.
Well, transparency is number one. You want to make sure that the agencies are being transparent. They're not trying to sweep things under the rug. It's not about who's going to look good or who's going to look bad. The most important thing is that people are getting
Now, I'm losing your line there, Anthony, and I'm going to throw you on hold. Walter, we appreciate you coming on. We feel terrible that you've had to go through this. Your son has had to go through this. And but I think the work that you've done for your son could very well end up benefiting people, other people that are in a situation like you, and maybe others that don't have someone like you standing up, a parent that's going to stand up for them.
I sincerely hope so.
All right. Walter Wenger, thanks so much for your time. Can you hold? I know Andrew has some quick questions. If you could just hang on the line just for a second. And as well, thanks to Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi. We lost his cell connection there.